Hey, all right, check us out. We'll have a little fireside chat tonight. What do you think? Oh, it's so weird not hearing your feedback, but I see arms and legs flying. No, I don't see legs, but man, Eric, thank you. Derek, I love you, brother. Mary Margaret, good to see you. Love you too, girl. Look at the hearts. Woo! All right. Man, been a minute. It takes me I told my wife before I came out to the garage to pull this together that I was really emotional today. And I know what it is. And I'm going to share it with y'all because I don't know. First of all, my name is Jimbo, and I am an alcoholic of the variety that the big book describes to a T. No joke. No ifs, ands, buts. And I was doing inventory with Eric, as he mentioned, before I told him where to go in the middle of step 9, believe that. Boy, we can get some sick suckers, man. I was not willing, and I told him I wasn't willing, and God made me willing, y'all. That's all I can tell you. I'm not in Texas anymore. I'm in Indiana. And the reason I'm in Indiana is I came up here to make amends to some of my family that were the ones that me and Eric were talking about that I wasn't willing to get to because they're so far away. What are you going to do? Texas to Indiana to make an amends? Man, when God moves you, you do what you're supposed to do, and you do it willingly. My life depends on this, you guys. It depends on this. So I'm here at my mom's stable, and she's a handful, y'all. Turns out I'll be here probably till it's over. I'm gonna say it that way. The amends turned into a couple years of taking care of things that I harmed the lady and she harmed me, but now it's like God's got me in a place where I'm supposed to do this and this is what we're going to do. And we knew it from the minute of the get-go. When we took the trip, my wife agreed, and we packed up the stuff and took the trip up here. We drove, and we didn't even plan where to stop, when to get gas, none of that stuff. Not like an alcoholic to do that. You know, everybody was calling me, all my buddies, my AA buddies, they're going, where are you going? Where are you going to stop? Where are you going to stay? I don't know. We drive until the gas tank says we need gas, and that's where we get gas. And sometimes we stop. We stopped at this one place. We had a big fifth wheel deal behind the truck, and we stopped at a place. My wife said, boy, this place is pretty, Jimbo. Can we stay here for a little while? I said, how long you want to stay here? She said, a week. I said, sure. So we stayed and took our time and followed God's total guidance because I had nothing to do with it, and I know I didn't. And that's always some cool stuff when that happens to you. If it hasn't happened to you yet, I suggest that you follow directions in this book outlined to the T precisely, and you too can be launched into that fourth and fifth dimension of existence because it ain't no joke, y'all. I live there. I love it here. And all I have to do is keep going, keep doing the deal. You know, if I do anything short of that, I'm loud land back on page 62. Some of you know that page. I'm going to touch on that tonight. Hey, how long am I going here? Does anybody know?
I got an idea. About 40, 45 minutes. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds fine. Okay, thank you.
You got it, brother.
I got my timer going now. Yeehaw! I use a cake timer to meditate, but it don't go to 45. So this will be a record deal here. But anyway, I came out of the chute in the middle of step 9, and I just wanted to tell you that I figured out why I was so emotional. And it's from stuff that me and Eric did a long time ago. And there's nobody on this planet Earth that calls me Jimmy but Eric and my grandfather. And when I picked that phone up and he said, hey, Jimmy, what are you doing? And I said, oh, my God, it just overwhelms me that I told the man that in an inventory or a fifth step and that he remembered it, you know, and that he called me that. And it just brings up he was my love bucket, y'all. Does that make sense? Do you know what a love bucket is? He's the only person, along with another lady, that I received any kind of love that I needed as a child and a young adult. The only, and they called me Jimmy. And Eric, I'll never forget, he said, is it okay if I call you Jimmy? And I said, man, that's going to take a minute to get used to it. That's going to mess my show up. That's going to mess my persona up. Do I look like a Jimmy? I go by Jimbo, but I go by Jimmy to any one of you that needs to call me that. I don't care. It's not about me. And that's one thing that's happened to me as a result of this process is that my life is no longer my business. None whatsoever. And it's just amazing to be able to live that way. You know, every once in a while I jump in there and make it my business, but it's rare. And when it happens, I know what to do about it. And I have the people around me. You know, I came up here to Indiana the first night here. I went to I called AA central office deal. And I said, I want to know where the rat hole, dirtiest, most scroungy AA is in this town. And they said, oh, we got the place for you. A little place called C&L. And I said, well, that sounds good. I went down there at midnight. And I walked in, there was one man there, and it was dirty, and it was ratty, and it was an old clubhouse. And his name was Donnie D. And he said, well, hey there, cowboy. Where the hell did you come from? I said, I just got here from Texas. Now, mind you, this is before meeting my mother. This is before doing anything that I thought I needed to do was get plugged in to Alcoholics Anonymous. So I went in there and I met the guy, and he goes, do you know anything about this book? And I said, I know a little. And he said, well, I know a little bit too. And I said, well, I'll be damned, let's talk. And he said, no, let's read. And I said, ooh, that's even better. That's how we do this thing. We read this book together. That's what I do. I think that's what Derek does. I know it's what Eric does because me and him read this book together. He didn't assign me 5 chapters and say, read it and call me later. We'll talk about it. He read it with me pretty much line by line, y'all. And it was amazing because there's a lot of things in this book that I read and I transmit or translate or interpolate, whatever it is, as not what it says, because I have the alcoholic mind that doesn't know the truth from the false sometimes. I can't differentiate those. And when I get stuck in that mess, it's good to have somebody to point out what we just read. You know what I'm saying? So now I've been doing that for, I guess, about 8 or 9 years now with others on a regular basis. So I hooked up with Donnie, got his phone number left there, and then he plugged me into a circuit board of Alcoholics Anonymous here in Indiana that I didn't know existed. And then I started running into old buddies that I run with when I walk in an AA meeting in a place called Newburgh, and my old drug dealer is chairing the meeting. I haven't seen the guy in 40 years, 40 freaking years. And he's here, and I've been in Texas and all around the place. And we both got a solid program, and we're both sober as a result of the book and as a result of being connected to the power which solves our problems. I choose to call him God. You can call him whatever you need to. I love in Bill's story where it says, choose your own conception. That's where I started. And that's where I start with everybody. Write it down, by God. Write down your conception of God, because you're going to need it on page 47. Y'all were talking earlier about what step was in that and that, and I thought, oh man, first step's 47 pages. Last time I looked, they may have rearranged it. I don't think they did, but 47 pages of one step is a lot. And that tells me out of 164 plus the appendixes and the bonus stuff, the spiritual experience, that's pretty important. So I understood that I was powerless over alcohol. Now let me back up a little bit. What got me here? Okay, I tricked bunked myself. I'm trying to watch my language. I tricked myself into Alcoholics Anonymous to begin with. Back in the 90s, I jumped in here because my wife was looking at me and she said, if you don't do something about this drinking, I'm leaving and I'm taking the dog. And I said, you ain't taking the dog. No way, Jose. I'll go to that AA place and I'll get sober and I'll show you and I'll turn things around. Well, she said, okay. And I called and they answered. They did more than answer. They said, we'll be in your driveway in an hour. Let's go. Be ready to go. And I was like, where am I going? I didn't know anything about anything, but I knew this was going to get her off my tail. And the reality was she left, the dog died, and I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and sober and wondering what the hell am I going to do now? And I had a sponsor, and he said, what are you going to do now? All the reasons you came in are gone. What are you going to do, Jimbo? And I said, well, I'm sober. And he goes, you ever think why you're sober? I said, because I had something happen that I didn't drink anymore after I came into AA. And it wasn't after I completed the steps, or I hadn't done a lot of work at all. But something happened to me that was of a spiritual nature. The we part of we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. It was that we that got me. Because now I'm no longer a lone wolf. I'm not by myself. It's not I admit I'm powerless. It's we. So I sat down with this old boy, and we went through the process. And that's one of 16 times that I've been through the process. Some were deeper than others. And this last one blew my head off. The one I took the trip, I call it taking a trip. I took a trip with Eric up to step 9, and that was beyond centering myself into the arms of a loving higher power. I remember I had an old conception of God, and Eric said, we're going to burn it, Jimbo. And we were doing this over the phone, over Zoom. And I said, why are we going to burn it? He goes, because you're sentimental. And I laughed. I thought he'd get a kick out of the fire tonight, because that's what I had going when I burned my old conception of God, because I had to have something that was going to work for me, y'all. And I wrote down that stuff, and he said, you're a sentimental guy. You're going to need to do this way. So I burn it. And at that moment, I was by the fire outside, and I said, God, just reveal yourself. And it wasn't my ability to arrive to that place. It was my availability. Like I was following directions. I didn't know why, but something happened. And it wasn't a bright light experience. I've had those. That it wasn't that. It was just a knowing that I was going to be taken care of through this process again. And I had never known that. I have never touched that. Then I had some stuff die. Some trees died on me. And Eric said, you sure they're dead? And I said, what? How do you know? I'll never forget it, man. It was a palm tree. And I think that tree's still alive today. We had a hurricane or something, and I thought for sure it was dead. But I know I'm jumping all over the map, because that's how I do things, y'all. Just bear with me. There'll be a point, I hope, maybe not. It's going to be what it is. I learned something else from Eric, and it's not a praise Eric night, but it seems like it. Eric taught me this prayer. God, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, about this book, about AA, and let me have a new experience, because that's what I need every day. And I'm going to back that up in a minute. But I wanted to read a little bit, if y'all don't mind. I'm going to go to 24 and 25 out of the book. Sometimes this centers me and pulls me around to a position. On page 24, it says, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering or the humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We were without defense. Not we were. We are without defense against the first drink. I went years and didn't know that I was powerless over the first one. I know some of you had that experience. I knew I was powerless over that 5th one or 6th one, but it never occurred to me, even when I was sober, that it was the first one that got me. And I had to learn this. And in learning this, that's how I understood what had happened to me when I got here, was that it couldn't have been me. Because what I just read to you is true, then I have no effective defense whatsoever. So if you're sober, something's happened. Something has happened, y'all. And it's amazing how I thought I did something. I remember collecting them chips there for a while, and it was like, woohoo, that surely did it, right? Maybe it's all the meetings I went to. No, tells me here that I don't have a memory won't work. And it also tells me that what I'm doing right now ain't going to work. So something's keeping me completely armed up against the first one. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I know what it is. It's the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and God, my higher power. Almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind. You know why it doesn't crowd into my mind? I'm going to tell you straight up, y'all, what I think, and it's my opinion. I think I got a worm up here, and it's called alcoholism. And it's like a little worm. He's cute, and he rides in my mind, and he activates every once in a while. And you know what kicks him off? Resentment, fear, worry, anxiety. I can think of a few other thousand things. Fear. That little worm kicks in, and he starts doing the thinking for me. And when he's doing the thinking for me, the whole time, he's telling me it's me doing the thinking. I heard a guy say that his disease was out in the parking lot doing push-ups. I laugh. I said, no, it's right here in the meeting with you, figuring out your next move so it can think you into a different way, because it's a thinking problem, not a drinking problem for me. I thought it was a drinking problem when I got here. She thought it was a drinking problem. And it turns out I don't know how to live and I don't know how to think because I'm so self-centered. Selfish, self-centered is the root of my trouble, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking. Holy moly. What am I going to do about that? So see how that shifted me in Alcoholics Anonymous away from just staying away from a drink or staying sober or thinking that alcohol was my problem, when the reality was alcohol was my answer to the problem. It was the answer to all my problems. No matter what, drink. It'll be all right. Let's get over it. Let's roll. And all of a sudden, y'all took that away from me. So now what am I going to do? I can't change my own thinking. Self cannot fix self. I tried self-help, y'all. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a self-help program. It's not therapy either. But it's a God-centered program, and I have to get to that source, that power, or I remain powerless. So step one, we admitted we're powerless over alcohol is cool, but it's not a good place to live. And I found that out. And I hope what I've said kind of explains how I found that out. That I had something else wrong with me. I had the ism, the I, the self, the me. I also had the inner spiritual malady. That ism has taken me and my family and my people I don't like and the people I like around the damn world. It's insanity, y'all. Alcoholism is a bear. And the only way I know to treat it is by following the directions in this book. So I read you a little bit there on page 24, 25. I got a couple notes only because I want to know what page numbers, because I know the book pretty good, but I'm not good with the page numbers. Now I wanted to go to 56 and 57. If you want to follow along, you can. You don't have to. 56 and 57. I got a note at the bottom here. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. No later vestitude has shaken it. His alcoholic problem was taken away. That's what happened to me. In the middle or end of step 2, the alcoholic problem was taken away. And then over on 57, it says, God had restored his sanity. Well, I thought I was patched up and ready to roll. And the reality was that stuff happened and alcohol was removed and the desire for it was removed. But that was only my sanity regarding that, regarding alcohol and drugs. That wasn't the other insanity. Because I'm guessing here on page 57 that there's a lot more pages and a lot more steps that I'm going to need to take to treat the rest of this shit. Because the alcohol was the symptom of the problem. It wasn't a problem. So it was removed. Now what's wrong with me? Why am I not okay? Why am I scared? Why am I running through life taking hostages, for God's sakes? Well, I found out as I went through this process that when I was a kid, I was a victim of a bad thing. It involved a trunk and a kidnapping. Y'all can fill in the blanks, okay? It was ugly. But I had carried that rascal with me through 14 times through the steps and never got rid of it. And that's why I reached out to Eric, y'all. I was watching a TV show, and there was that kind of crime scene in the show. And I started sweating, and I was like, oh, my God, here I go again. You know, and I always did that loud enough for somebody to hear it because, see, I like to play the victim. I was a victim, but I like to play the victim. And the work I did with Eric after all them other works showed me something about getting rid of that, and that I had to be rid of that victimness and not become a survivor, but just not be the victim anymore. Does that make sense? I don't know if I vocalized that right, because until I was able to let go of that stuff, where they harmed me, it was the only harm that was really done to me. But I used it and I blamed them for everything, everything. And I had to stop doing that. And I don't know any other way to stop doing that than to work these steps on that. That one issue for sure. I had a lot of therapy. I had 9 years of therapy, y'all. But here I am in Alcoholics Anonymous, dry, just dry, not drinking. But I'm still playing a victim, and I'm still using that to manipulate others. And that was some scary shit, because I didn't want to let go of that. That had worked for me. Does that make sense? Like I had that PTSD had worked for me many, many times. And now here I am getting ready to look at it and get rid of it. Well, what about the people in my life right now? How'd they get here? Did I manipulate them? I'm sure I did. So it took a long amends with my wife, a long amends. It's still going on. Hey, Eric, I still make coffee every morning, brother. He said, just make her a cup of coffee. I've been doing it for like 9 years now, maybe longer. I don't even keep track of time, y'all. When you get older like me, you can't remember half of it anyway. We're not big on celebrations of recovery. I'm big on days of desperation. I had two back in the 90s, and I had the other one 17. They were days of desperation when I was beaten into submission. I didn't surrender. I go to a lot of meetings. I sponsored 5 guys. And I go to a lot of meetings. Zoom meetings, in-person meetings, I'm there. I got a home group. I chair the meetings. Not all of them, but I participate in my recovery. I participate in Alcoholics Anonymous at a district level. And that's what it takes for me to be in Alcoholics Anonymous, not to be around it. So those are things some of you never heard of, but I promise you they're there. And you got the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and the 12 concepts. It ain't just 12 steps, y'all. To a new way of living requires me to dabble in to these other areas and find out what the damn principles are in those other 24 areas. Sometimes they duplicate themselves, the principles, but basically we're going to practice them in all our affairs. It might behoove you, like it did me, to find out what they are. We read it every meeting. I don't know if y'all read how it works. I can't remember. I was too choked up with my clock and trying not to let Derek see who I was to pay attention in the damn beginning of the meeting, because that's how I am. I got distracted. I don't know if y'all read how it works, but in how it works, it says that. So what is my main problem at this point? I'm still running on old ideas. All right, now I know that's in there. I'm going to dig on that, page 59, I think, 58. Let me jump over there. Bear with me. I know it's a nightmare to follow me. So these old ideas got to be smashed. And it says some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil till we let go. Absolutely. Does that mean I need to let go of my victimness? Yes. Does that mean I need to let go of my life? Yeah. See, because right here I'm in between that wonderful place where we're starting to understand that we're not on the third step, but we're in between. We're convinced that we're at step 3, but we're not at step 3. Isn't that funny how that works? I hope I'm making sense. Because that page that says being convinced we're at step 3, which means we're going to turn, we again, a we, not a me, we're going to design to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. So that means I can't do that by myself. There's a we involved. And they don't mean me and God. That means me and another human being and God. We're going to figure out how to do this. And I know how to do it now. I got to start writing inventory. That's how I do a third step. The minute my pen hits paper, because at the end of this, it says that we launched on a course of vigorous action. That is in step 3, not step 4. And I do this with my guys. And all the other AAers are looking at us like we're nuts. We're going to AA meetings and we're going, there ain't no accomplishment of step 3. There's no such thing. It's making a decision to start writing, because it tells you we launch on a course of vigorous action. How can you launch on a course of vigorous action if you don't go to 4? So we don't just sit there and lollygag around and wait on our will and our lives to be turned over, which is my thinking and my actions. So my thinking and my actions got to be turned over to God, and my behavior and my old ideas. Well, how am I going to do that? That's when the meat and potatoes comes, 4 through 9. So I'm going to run like crazy. I'm going to do inventory the way it's outlined in the book, with a sponsor who knows how it's outlined in the book. I've had a couple since you, Eric, and they are fabulous as well. I'm going to tell you something fast. One time I told Eric, I said, hey, I heard in the meeting that acceptance was the key to my problems. You know what Eric said? Turn to 417 in your book, Jimbo. I said, okay. He goes, rip it out. I said, why would I want to rip it out? He goes, that ain't the key to your problems, baby. And he knew it. He knew I was going to have a power, a big power, because I'm a stubborn, hard-headed victim. And that is not working. That is no way I'm going to get out of the way enough to allow God in. Even though I told you I had my moments where I knew he was there, it still wasn't an active part of my life. I didn't have a conscious contact with that power. The conscious contact with my power today, like the book says, is my most precious gift. I make that connection every single morning. I wake up with 86, 87, and 88 every day. I don't miss. It's like air for me. Oh my God. You know why? It adjusts my thinking. So now just bear with me. I want to go back to 62, where it tells me what the problem is, okay? So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example, not a example of self-will run riot. And here comes Jimbo. Are you ready? Though he doesn't think so. You're kidding me. I got my name in there. That's me. I don't think so. When I'm doing it, I definitely don't think so. So I got to have help. I got to have somebody to tell me the truth when I'm doing this. And it takes a good sponsor to do that. It takes a tough guy for me, because I've been through hell and back. I dated the girl. Hell and back. She's a great girl. But I need hard, rough, or I don't pay attention, y'all. I don't know what that is. Like if you just come at me soft and give me a hug and a chip and throw some frothy stuff on me, that ain't gonna help me. I need to be able to see the truth. And to be able to see the truth takes a lot out of other people who are trying to help me. And I appreciate everything they do always. And I'm that way with my guys. We're after the truth here. We're trying to find the truth. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must. You're kidding me. Or it kills us? Holy moly, God makes that possible. Doesn't say God did it. It says possible. That means, what am I now going to have to do in between being convinced I'm at step 3 and being at step 3? Now I've got to do something to make that possibility come real. And what I have to do is what it says on the bottom: launched on the course of vigorous action. So then I get in the inventory and I do my stuff, and I get into that fifth step, and I get into that 6 and 7 an hour. I know a girl right now, she's been at 6 and 7 for 4 months. I said, why are you in 6 and 7 4 months? Well, my sponsor, she thought I should live in it and experience it for a while. I'm not making fun of her, y'all. It just cracks me up that the book says it takes an hour. The shortcomings are going to start to unfold on your ass when you get there. So 4, 5, 6, I'm not going to talk a lot about those. 7, 8, became willing. Became willing. There's those 2 words, Eric. There's them 2 words that put the brakes on my world. As I was working through this with him, he said, you're not willing. And I said, no, I'm not. I just didn't say, no, I'm not. It took a month for me to say, no, I'm not. Because I acted as if. Because I'm used to acting, right? That's what I do. I put on the show. It tells me in the book. Shakespeare, right? We only let those see what we want them to see. I had a mask on right here. And it was a very, very thin mask. But it was hiding my scars and my disgrace and my embarrassment for who and what I was. And I needed that veil removed to the point where I don't care what it is. Just make me what you want me to be. Let me see the truth about me, about you, about everything. And just let me be able to see that and live with that. And I'm a child of God. I'm not scarred. I do have scars, but they're not ugly the way I look at them. See, that I had to have that change of outlook, that change of attitude. The way I looked at things with old ideas was not working out sober. You know, there's a section in there called the bedevilments where we're having trouble with personal relationships. I love that. Sober. That's what happens to me is I start having trouble with personal relationships sober. I have trouble with personal relationships drunk, of course. But we're not talking about drunk. Alcohol was removed. Don't forget that. My alcoholic problem was removed. My insanity regarding alcohol was taken away. Now what have I left with? The insanity of self-centered, selfish Jimbo. How am I going to get rid of that? The only way I can do it is in the time frame is to run to 9. 4 through 9 is the meat and the potatoes. And when I started making those amends I didn't want to make, that's when something happened that changed and that veil started to go away. I still have it. Sometimes I put it on when I'm scared or when I have resentment or when I don't know what to do. But I'm going to tell you real quick because I got to go fast, I guess. 86, 87, and 88, I'm going to dissect for you real quick if you haven't done it. Not that you haven't, but it says upon awakening, let us think. It means I got to do some thinking about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. So what am I doing? I'm starting to consider what I'm going to do today. And then this sucker throws me a curveball. It says before we begin. What do you mean before we begin? You just told me to consider my plans for the day. You see, I've had to read this with others to figure this out. So we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking it to be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motives. And then it goes on and on and on about the thinking. It doesn't talk about drinking. It talks about selfishness and self-centeredness. So what I'm thinking here, I'm going to try something, is to pull 62, where selfishness and self-centered we think is the root of my troubles, though I don't think so, and then come over here and find out what they want me to change. My thinking. There's the problem. So upon awakening under these conditions, it says we can employ our mental faculties. What do you mean under these conditions? What conditions? That I've been divorced from self-pity, self-centered thinking? Well, that makes sense. See, the word divorce is there. That's a long process. Remember the one that I got sober for? She divorced me. It didn't happen in a day. It took a month, and it took a lot of people, and it was agony. So divorcing me from those items that are blocking me from the spirit and the sunlight has to happen. And then my thought life gets placed on a much higher plane. Boy, I'm looking forward to that. When my thinking is clear on motives. You know, I'm hem-hawing around. I'm not reading it word for word. And thinking about our day, we face indecision. What are we going to do? Now, I come across something. What am I going to do? Do I need a Phillips head or do I need a flathead? You know, it's like that simple sometimes. And I don't know what I need. I can't see the screw. It's rusted. What am I going to do? Oh, I might ask God for inspiration. It tells me what to do. And I ask God, what do I do? And he tells me what to do, or he guides me to the screwdriver somehow. The shiny one shows up. You know what I'm saying? I trust this. We relax and we take it easy. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God. That means to me, y'all, that every conscious contact I've ever made with God, ever, is not sufficient. If I have to have it today, and that's what it says. I'm going to read it again. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it's not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. Why does it say that? Because right now is all we got, y'all. We don't have yesterday. It's a memory. Tomorrow, the future, Jesus. It's my imagination. All I got's right now. And I have to have that conscious contact with a power all day, every day. And how am I going to achieve that? Read this. It's in here. Now, this didn't come before step 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This comes after the work is done. So I'm not going to talk too much longer. I want to talk about the work. I'd love to spend another hour with you because I can tell you how to do a 4th step, a 5th step, 6, 7. I had a little trouble with 8 and 9. But as I started becoming willing to do those, God showed me that I was on the right path 1,000,000%. And he gave me the freedom of those promises. You know, they started coming true. And the first word of those promises is if. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development.
Hey, Jimmy, you still got you got 7 minutes, brother. You got 7.
Okay, man, I'll keep going a minute.
All right.
Let me go back to 86, 87, 88. I love this because I do it every day. Been doing it every day a long, long time, y'all. My wife won't let me out the door without it. She's even in here. It says that we have our wife or friends join us. I asked my wife, y'all, I'm going to tell you the truth. I asked her for years, will you do this meditation in the morning with me? She said, no, I do my own thing. I said, okay. Well, after I got on this amends mission with her, after we got on it, one day she said, I think I'd like to try that. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like that's what I heard. She said, I'd like to try that thing you're doing. And I said, what changed your mind? And she said something to the effect of, I've been demonstrating that it works instead of talking about that it works all the fucking time. So I'm a big talker. I can put on a show, y'all, to her, to you. But I'm telling you, this program has saved my ass and my face. And that's how it did it. It allows me to rearrange my thinking. It needs to be rearranged, y'all. It's bad. So I don't know. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love it. I love the people. I love sharing. I love chairing meetings. I got my sponsees. My God, I was in Indiana about 4 days and I had 4 guys. And they're going, man, you're talking different, Jimbo. They don't do it this way around here. They don't follow the book. And it's a lone wolf operation, man. Eric, you know what I'm talking about. When you're the only one in a town about 200,000 people that does it out of the book, and we read the book together, you gave me that, brother. You gave me that. We're not going to send you on a mission and check in once in a while. We're going to do this together. And you told me you were going to walk down that path with me hand in hand. You were going to put my hand in God's hand. And I think I cut you off before you had a chance. But you know what? Somebody else helped me do it. But it wouldn't have got to start without you, man. and you have my heart, you need to stop calling me Jimmy, because that one just blows my head off its hinges. And you know it. And I love you. And I'm going to succeed my time to one of y'all if y'all want to share a minute or something. And I'm just grateful to be among you high caliber people. I'm grateful to be anywhere. And it's only by the grace and the care and the love and the compassion of this program and of the power. You know, they used to say, rest in peace when you went to a funeral. I want to rest in power. I want to rest in my power. That's what I want. Peace may come, it may not. Look at the world. Who knows? It ain't based on peace for me. It's based on power and my dependence on that power to solve my problem. I love y'all. Thanks for letting me putting up with my crazy ass.